back to the Tea and a Buddy podcast. I'm Dominic.
And I'm Erica.
And today's episode is about the death of Her Majesty the Queen Elizabeth II, who died on 8th of September 2022.
Yeah.
At 96 years old.
Yeah.
70 years on the throne.
I know it sounds weird to say it was a little bit of a shock.
I mean, it's
at 96.
as you say, so when someone dies, it's always a shock.
Yeah.
Because, it's happened.
Yes.
And even if you've been preparing, for a long time.
Yeah.
Which, the royal family have been preparing for a long time.
Well,
they've had plans in place since the 60s.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like she was in her, 40s or 50s.
No, she was 96.
96.
She had good innings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you can't expect someone to live forever.
Although
the way some people reacted, you would think that they did expect her to live forever.
Well, there was a lot of people who said, I expected her to go on forever.
Yeah.
So this is a bit of a shock to me.
But I do feel like it is a shock, considering she had just met the new Prime Minister 2 days before.
2 days ago, she accepted Boris Johnson's resignation and appointed Liz Truss as her 15th Prime Minister.
Yeah. And she was there, and there's pictures
of the event.
She was smiling. And
she was smiling.
All
she was up. She was
dressed, and her hair was done, and makeup. And
she had a walking stick, or a cane, as Sylvia, but,
I did think, unless Liz Truss is, like, a big, tall lady, I did think that it appeared to me as if she had shrunk. The Queen had shrunk quite a lot from, like, the last time we saw her in a public appearance.
Yeah.
And also, everybody was talking about her hands, how bruised and, like, purple and dark they were.
That's a sign of multi-organ failure.
Yes.
At that point, the blood is not getting... The arteries have narrowed or are blocked or, something,
Yes.
Yeah, so...
And that usually does happen with older people when they're not long for the earth,
Yeah.
So I saw, when I saw that, you can kind of go, okay, yeah, it was coming. That's that's a sign. I think, like, in hospice, they have, like, a little book, when you have someone that goes into hospice, they have a book that tells you all about what to expect and all of this kind of stuff. And in there, that is definitely, like, one of the big signs that the hands start to go
deteriorate,
go like that,
purple and bruised and everything. Yeah, and she hasn't been well.
But the fact that she was up and
she's up.
Smiling.
She took her hand and everything and appointed her and everything. So, I'm not sure if they knew then that
it's only a matter of time.
It's only a matter of time, but maybe they did. Maybe they've known for months.
Yeah.
Because at her Platinum Jubilee, she only was doing balcony appearances.
Yeah.
She wasn't at the big concert at the end. It was actually quite a bit of a subdued affair, really.
Yeah.
Even the concert,
compared to
see
her and
the
stuff.
Diamond Jubilee and, the Golden Jubilee and everything,
Yeah.
It was a pretty kind of subdued
and
affair.
they kept saying because of mobility issues. Which could have been, the heart was not pumping the oxygen throughout the body, and so she was struggling to get around, because of that.
Yeah,
I'm no doctor by any means.
She was 96 at the end of the day. She was her mother, the Queen Mother, was 101 when she died.
And that was in 2002?
2002, March.
So she lived 20 years longer than...
20 years, yeah.
Yeah.
Almost, yeah. A few days, a few months after. But yeah, she was quite long-lived. Everybody thought she was going to...
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
She was going to outlive everyone.
Yeah,
keep going,
I think everybody was, like, kind of predicting she was going to live as long as her mom, at least. But, I didn't remember that it was just last year that Philip died.
Philip died last year, yeah.
And
that was her husband, Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh.
And I think that happens sometimes with older couples who have been together as long as they were,
one dies, the other, if they don't die within
mm-hmm.
at the same time, one dies not long after the other.
Yeah. And to me, a year is not long after,
Oh, no, it's not.
Which makes it, that's always got to be so hard for the kids,
Well, yes.
But before we get into all of that, I asked you, and you had to look it up because you weren't sure, whether we would find out an official cause of death.
They won't release an official cause of death.
Yeah. Well, like my mom says, cause of death was being 96.
It's presumed it was, multiple organ failure or, just
her heart.
Natural causes. Yeah. Natural causes.
She just went to sleep and probably. And,
yeah.
I mean, you were kind of speculating that maybe she just, passed away in the night and they woke up and she was already gone and then they called the kids over.
Yeah, I mean, the Prime Minister was informed apparently 4:30 in the afternoon, British time, and then the public announcement was made at 6:30 that evening.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that was before
that she had
passed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they made a statement saying, that the Queen is at Balmoral and
the doctors are with her and
she's under medical supervision.
And she's comfortable.
And, we're concerned.
Yeah.
Which was in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Now...
And we're calling all the family to come.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was just shortly after that they made the announcement.
Yeah, so it's likely that and she had died maybe during the night and they kept it quiet for most of the day. And only calling in the family. And it says the Prime Minister was informed at 4:30 and then 2 hours later the official and the public were informed of it. But I mean, I don't know. I mean,
that's pure speculation.
It's pure speculation. I'm not anyone that knows.
You do,
I'm just thinking, because it was like
your sources. You got sources in there.
Sources at Balmoral tell me what was going on. No, because it's kind of like they've got to get everything ready, but. Well, they would have had everything ready anyway.
Yeah.
At this point, it would have been just like there's nothing, there's no it's just when she goes, it's like we'll just carry on and tell people, and then Operation London Bridge is go.
I mean, I guess from personal experience, my grandmother passed away last year.
Yeah.
And that was and she was old. She was older too.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it was not a surprise, and she was ill. But she was sort of on a plateau. So when it happened, it felt sudden, and I guess it could have been a similar situation with.
Well, that's it. Everybody says, she kept him. She kept her mind till 96.
Yeah.
And there was no deterioration or anything. I mean, 2 days ago.
Well, that's what I mean.
2 days before she was up appointing the Prime Minister.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, in my head, surely the doctors and everybody were not like, like we said before, it's only a matter of time. And as she's, close to death, they're dressing her and, you still have to meet the new Prime Minister. Surely that would not have happened if they knew that she was...
Well, no, if she was, on her deathbed...
Yeah.
They would have said... Okay, no, there's no way we can do this.
Surely. So I think it must have been a little bit of a shock for everyone. Like, it happened sort of suddenly, I think.
Yeah, I mean, she must have gone to bed and said, I'm not getting up again, and that's it,
Yeah. And I think...
I've appointed my 15th Prime Minister. I'm done.
Yeah.
70 years is a good,
I think on NPR somebody made a joke of she was just waiting out Boris Johnson, like she didn't want to leave the country with Boris.
Yeah, as soon as Boris handed in his resignation, she was like, that's it. I'm handing in mine too.
All right, I can retire now. That's it. Somebody else do this.
Yeah, she reigned for 70 years and 214 days. So she took the throne when King George VI, which was her father, died. And I think that was a surprise to people when he died.
Yeah.
Because they thought, oh, he's going to be okay, you know. Because I think I don't know how old he was. I think he was in his 60s.
Well, I mean, The Crown, if you can believe the show, The Crown, the Netflix series, they make it seem like it was his condition was rather, like, kept hush-hush.
Hush-hush, yeah.
Like, I don't even think she knew how bad it was.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot, back in those days, there was a lot of things that, you know, people just didn't talk about. And it's like people just put on a brave face, did the stiff upper lip thing. And we're like, oh, no, you know, he's fine, and the king is fine, he's going to be... He's quite healthy. He's had his operation, and he's all right.
And probably also with him being a king in the first place, they were probably like optimistic of, oh well, we're going to do everything we can because you're the king. Like we can't let you die. You know?
Yeah.
And so we'll try this and we'll try that, and you know, and it's just like
he wasn't king for very long. He 15 years.
I was gonna say, was it just over a decade?
Yeah, it was just. Yeah, about 15 years. 30, 36, 37. Yeah.
Yeah.
37, so...
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he died in 1952. She, immediately after his death, she became queen, and then she was coronated a year later. We are presuming the coronation of Charles III, who was formerly Prince Charles of Wales, will be next year.
Yeah.
At probably in the summertime, I'm presuming, probably around the same time as hers was, just to keep in with tradition. You know?
I wondered though if it took her so long to be coronated just because her father's death was a little bit of a surprise.
Maybe.
So maybe Charles's
and it
might
was
be sooner.
And it was also a case of they hadn't had a queen since Victoria, which was 50 years.
Yeah. I wonder how long beforehand they will announce it. Because, like, maybe we could go to Britain when he's going to be coronated.
I mean, it would be great to be there during the coronation, but it'd also be an absolute nightmare.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Especially in London.
Yeah. You guys, we talk about this kind of stuff, and it's interesting from a historical point of view, but Dominic and I, neither one feel one way or the other about the royal family. I just want to say that because I know there's a lot of strong opinions.
There's strong opinions on either side. We're going to talk about the reactions to the death, but I'm just going to go over, in her life.
I know, but just since we were talking about, like, maybe we can be there. I don't want people to think, like, she's American. Why does she, I don't know.
Well, it's funny, because we watched this YouTuber who lives in London, and she was going around. She went to Buckingham Palace on the day it was, it was announced and people were coming up there. And she says, I was just kind of documenting the day, and I was standing there and looking at the flowers and everything. And then I heard this American woman, tourist come and goes, oh, am I allowed to be here? I don't know.
She asked her, am I allowed to be here?
It's like,
I'm
of course you are.
Yeah.
It's like, this is not a thing like only British people can attend.
Yeah.
It's like,
But I think a lot of the times, Americans' interest in the royal family, let's say, does receive some criticism, especially online by British people.
It receives criticism, yes. I mean,
and other Americans.
And other Americans who don't agree with it, who are like, oh, we kicked them out.
Yes.
Ugh,
Yeah. I mean, I'm so into history that to me it's just fascinating because it's like living history. I mean, of course we're all living history, but their family history is documented like so far back.
They've got
we
a
could
wealth
only
of...
be so lucky to be able to like know exactly who came before us, person by person. Like, most of us don't have that luxury.
They've got a luxury now of having HD images of the monarch. She's the first monarch to live into the digital age, and have that posterity there. I mean, you know, of course there was film before. This film of, like, I think the earliest film is of Queen Victoria. And she was, like, you know, and it's, of course, it's terrible quality, and because, I mean, that was early film cameras, and it was, like, I don't even know if it was even 8mm film back then, you know, but it's all jumpy, and, you know, it was, like, 1876, maybe.
Yeah.
And that's where all the state funeral and stuff comes from, I think it's hers, because she died on the Isle of Wight.
Queen Victoria?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And so her body was conveyed by ship to Dover.
Why was she on the Isle
not
of
Dover.
Wight?
No, not Dover. To Southampton, where it was collected by train to go to Waterloo. Well, Osborne House was a royal residence. I don't think it is anymore. I think it's part of the National Trust.
That
now.
was
George the Fourth, Prince Regent's.
Oh no, but that was what was his name now? Albert. That was Albert's favorite place, wasn't it?
I think maybe. No, I think it might have been hers.
Thinking back to our Victoria series that we used to watch.
Oh yeah, I don't think that's coming back on. But yeah, yeah, I think that was his favorite. I mean, that's where she spent most of it is, and people are going, oh. I thought she loved Windsor Castle so much. What was she doing in Balmoral?
Yeah, I had that question,
it's like she was on holiday.
Yeah.
I mean, and when
they said, she spent her summer holidays in Balmoral.
And I think it was symbolic that she died in Scotland because Operation Unicorn could then take place.
Yeah. Unicorn being Scotland's the national animal of Scotland.
Unicorn, yeah. And that's true. It's not.
It's true.
It's not a joke, no. So Operation Unicorn, you know, it's kind of working in conjunction with Operation London Bridge. If you've watched The Crown, you'll know about all this.
Yeah.
When on a royal's death, they kind of like put into plans state funerals and ceremonial funerals, and they call it Operation whatever. I mean, hers was London Bridge. Prince Philip's was Forth Bridge. Charles will be Menai Bridge because it's in Wales to Anglesey.
Oh yeah.
And Operation Tay Bridge, I think, was Queen Mother.
Oh.
George VI was Hyde Park Corner.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's the code name, you know, because that's what happens when they call up the Prime Minister. When they called up Liz Truss, who's now Prime Minister, they would have said to her, London Bridge is down. And then it's like, okay, that's the code. Queen is gone. We need to get everything into order and, you know, prepare.
Yeah.
She was the second longest reigning monarch in the world.
I mean, they had to have all of that. They have to have all of that prepared. Like, probably as soon as they're coronated, maybe even shortly after they're born. Who knows? Like,
well, no, the plans for her death, you know, were in place since the 1960s and keep getting renewed, you know, like as things go on, you know?
Yeah. It's probably like, when I was in college, my mind was blown in this media law class that I took. I think that was class anyway. Where it was revealed that any celebrity as soon as a person becomes a celebrity,
a bona fide celebrity, they start writing obituary about them.
An obituary is written.
And it keeps it being updated.
They just add on to it as significant things happen. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like...
I mean, it makes sense, but it's just something I had never thought about. But obviously, the similar... It's a similar thing with the royal family.
They just keep adding things on to
let's have the funeral arrangements just in case, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
Because it's like, you know, you don't ever know what's going to happen.
So, yeah. She was the second longest reigning monarch in the world.
Next to Queen Victoria?
No.
Oh, in the world.
In the world.
Okay.
Because people thought she was the longest reigning monarch in the world. You know, everybody was saying that.
Yeah, they were.
But it was actually Louis XIV, who was King of France from the time he was 4 years old
he was a kid.
till he died in 70. He was 72 years and 110 days.
Okay, yeah, he was a kid. Okay.
Yeah.
How long was, do you know, happened to have there?
63 years.
Queen Victoria?
Yeah.
Okay. You read my mind.
So, yeah, she was 63 years, she was. Because I remember when they said, oh, she's passed.
Oh,
Queen
that's
Victoria's,
right. Yes,
you know,
yeah,
she's
that's
outdone
right.
her.
Yeah. She's outdone her.
Because she was 1846 to 1901. She died. Yeah, and then it was men from then on, you know, Edward, her son, wasn't long. He was only 10 years in the role.
Yeah.
On the throne.
Well, it's kind of a role.
It is a role, yeah.
It's a role they must
one
play.
That Charles III is going to do. And she's met 13 of the last 14 U.S. presidents.
Yeah, I was thinking that. I was like, I wonder how many
the first
of them
being Harry Truman.
How many of the living presidents will attend her funeral? Because I would think that
they'd all be invited. Because she was a head of state, and all heads of state are invited. You know, from around the world. All the Commonwealth leaders will be there. You know, all the prime ministers and presidents and, you know, other royal members.
I would think sitting presidents and prime ministers and world leaders wouldn't go. But surely the past ones might.
Yeah, maybe not. I mean, maybe...
Because that would be very, let's gather all the leaders of the world in one place. You know, it doesn't seem like a really great idea.
No, I mean, we have no idea if President Biden's going to go.
Yeah.
I mean, but I'm presuming Obama...
Yeah, surely.
You know, will go.
I mean,
Clinton.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, who knows?
Yeah. Who knows? I mean, Bush maybe. It's, you know, because I mean, she met every 13 of the last 14. The only one being LBJ, and it'd be Johnson.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she never met him, and as far as evidence it was because neither had extended an invitation to come, and just bad timing and everything, and you know.
Well, he was one of these, like, oh, what do we care about them for? You know, what do we care about the royal family?
Yeah, he was a little bit of a good old boy. Yeah.
But Margaret met him.
Oh, yeah. Margaret deputized her.
As we know from The Crown.
Yeah.
As we crown
Margaret died in... Oh, when did Margaret die? I think she died only a few months after the Queen Mother.
Oh, was it? I thought she died before.
Maybe it was before. I'm not precisely sure. It was around the same time. Yeah. Anyway, because she was in poor health, Margaret. I mean, that's Princess Margaret. She was the Queen's sister.
Margaret, our old mate Margaret.
Yeah.
Maggie.
But yeah, her first prime minister was the Winston Churchill.
Oh, yeah.
The Winston Churchill.
Yeah.
And the last being Liz Truss, obviously. But yeah, it's...
What a, like, you know, she just became prime minister and she has to deal with the death of the Queen.
Straight off, yeah.
Wow.
Because, I mean, there probably won't be an election now for a couple of years, so... Yeah. Although we don't know. We never know with this climate. But yeah, I mean, around the world there's been a lot of...
yeah, let's talk about the reaction.
The reaction, yeah. From King Charles III, said, "The death of my beloved mother, Her Majesty the Queen, is a moment of the greatest sadness for me and all members of my family."
Yeah.
In his statement, he came out... I mean, it was pretty much on the nose. There was no... It was like he was making an address. Yeah. He was doing his stuff.
I saw people, though, talking about, how terrible, you know, trying to humanize him. Not to say that he's not a human, but trying to humanize him and put, like, you know, themselves in the position or whatever. Trying to, how terrible it must be to lose your mother and to have to, in the midst of grief, make a make a public statement like that, you know.
A public statement, but it's like, that's
again,
something...
It's like the obituary or the funeral arrangements. That statement's been written for years, probably, you know,
Yeah, and then immediately he had to address the UK, as king.
He did,
he televised, and then he televised the actual ceremony where he's the actual proclamation.
Yeah.
Which is where the MPs and, you know, all the senior MPs swear their allegiance to him and say that, he is the king.
Yeah.
And that's it, you know, and that was unprecedented
because for that, didn't he?
St. James's Palace. He did that in,
was it St. James?
Yeah. Which is where it happens. I mean, it happened when Queen Elizabeth was, but they never televised it. They only televised a coronation. And that might have been why it took a year.
Oh, yeah.
Because they were going, Philip wants to televise it, you know. So, you know, they want to be radical and televise this, and it's like, oh no.
Yeah. It's a private thing, and
But I think Charles is very much of the age now where he's like, everything has to be filmed.
Yeah.
What we do, or else, you know.
Yeah.
It's not worth being a royal anymore.
Well, I think they understand that the world is interested in seeing the pageantry of it all.
Yes.
You know, like the tradition and all of that. So, I mean, I think that was the right thing to do.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think, you know, obviously the coronation will be televised, you know.
Unlike the revolution.
From William, Prince of Wales. I have lost a grandmother, and while I will grieve her loss, I also feel incredibly grateful. I have had the benefit of the Queen's wisdom and reassurance into my 5th decade.
Aw, yeah.
Yeah.
That makes me want to cry now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's more to the statement. I just took a sound bite from it, but yeah.
Yeah.
And the Prime Minister said, "Today the crown passes, as it has done for more than 1,000 years, to our new monarch, our new head of state, His Majesty King Charles III." So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Did Harry make a statement? I mean, we don't want to get into
Harry
the
and
controversy.
Meghan, they just had their website
put out a joint statement?
No, it wasn't a statement.
Oh.
It was just in loving memory of Her Majesty the Queen Elizabeth, 1926 to 2022.
Oh, that's interesting. I wonder if they weren't allowed?
I mean, they could. I mean, anybody can make a statement on it. I mean, as I'm going to read, you know, it's like Joe Biden. In a world of constant change, she was a steadying presence and a source of comfort and pride for generations of Britons, including many who have never known their country without her.
Yeah.
It's like, I've never known the UK without her. She was queen. What?
Well, she was queen for 70 years. So, I mean, you and I were talking previously. I mean,
almost 30 years,
before
I think. No, she was queen for 33 years when I was born.
Before you were born.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
But there are, in fact, people who were born when she was queen and died
when she was queen. Before, I mean, yeah.
I mean, in 70 years, I would say that probably a lot of people that was the case for.
Yeah.
You know, they never knew anything else.
Yeah. I mean, it's strange because, I mean, 70 years, it's a lifetime for some people.
I mean, it's weird for me just because for my whole life, you've always heard the Queen of England. The Queen. Oh.
The Queen.
I'm going to London to visit the Queen. Isn't there some sort of, like, nursery rhyme like that,
yes.
Right? I can't remember what it exactly is, but...
Where have you been? I've been to London to see the Queen.
To visit the Queen, yeah. I mean, she's not my queen, she's not America's queen, but still we know we know England as having a queen.
Yes.
The Queen of England. So it's going to be so weird. Or not going to be, it is weird already.
Having a King of England.
King.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when there's been kings before, obviously. But now there's a king again, you know.
And if they're lucky, there will only be kings now for a while. And I say if they're lucky, meaning if Britain allows them to continue.
Yes. allows the royal family to keep going, yeah. Because, of course, Republican sentiment goes up during these times, you know.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll get to some of those other reactions, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't really, because there's been some, you know, things that are not really good for the podcast.
Well, yeah. I mean, we won't quote them, but I think it's important to talk about them.
Yeah. Michelle and I were lucky enough to come to know Her Majesty, and she meant a great deal to us. Back when we were just beginning to navigate life as President and First Lady, she welcomed us to the world stage with open arms and extraordinary generosity. That was Barack Obama.
Oh, yeah.
For my whole life, Her Majesty, Queen Elizabeth II, has always been there. In my childhood, I can recall watching her wedding highlights on TV. I remember her as a beautiful young lady to the much-beloved grandmother of the nation. My deepest sympathies are with the royal family. That was Mick Jagger. And Paul McCartney met the Queen a few times in his life and recalls the Queen's Golden Jubilee in 2002. He said, as Her Majesty was on stage receiving applause at the end of the show, I joked, well, I suppose this will be happening next year then. To which she replied, not in my garden it won't. I mean, there's reactions, you know, people who see it as, oh, it's a symbol of colonialism and oppression.
Yes.
And, you know, there was one Nigerian tweeter that I think she got banned. She was a professor at Carnegie Mellon University.
Yeah.
She tweeted something and it got taken down, but it got quite a lot of support. But it got so much traction that the university had to come out and say, we don't condone her view, she's fine for free speech.
Yeah.
But no, we don't agree with that.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean,
which is kind of unprecedented for a university to come out and, you know, kind of like, but they feel, oh, we had to do it because Jeff Bezos retweeted it and said, oh, you know, she's just died, you know.
Yeah. Got
to separate the empire from the queen, you know.
Yeah, and I think so too. I mean, I understand seeing her as a symbol of that because ultimately, you know, she is.
Yeah.
Ultimately, that is what.
Yeah, I mean, the monarchy was. Yeah.
That is why they are a monarchy. That is why they are royal. You know, built on the backs of others.
Yeah. I mean, and you know, the British Empire was probably the largest empire in the world, or the world has seen.
Yeah.
You know?
Could you argue that these physical people who are alive today didn't have anything to do with that?
Yeah, I mean,
I think so.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, because there was a lot during her reign in the early years anyway. In Africa, there was the Mau Mau rebellions, you know, in Kenya, the British, you know, people, you know, because there was accelerated decolonization when she was on the throne.
Yeah.
It was like, and I think that was partly due to her saying, if they want independence, let them do it.
Yeah.
You know, we're not ruling with an iron fist anymore, and you know, and we'll invite them back into the Commonwealth if they want.
I think that
to have me as the head of state. You know,
apparently, and if we have any Australian listeners, I can't remember whether we do or not. I think that I heard somewhere that Australia has basically said we're in the Commonwealth as long as she's queen,
but once she's gone, we don't want Charles.
We don't want to be part of we don't want to.
They want to gain independence.
Yeah. So that's going to be interesting.
Yeah, they're probably going to hold a referendum for it. And yeah, I think Canada maybe.
Also?
Canada might.
I haven't heard that, but I mean.
But there's like this thing in Canada, which I was like reading up, and like if there's sentiment, there's kind of like this thing with Canada that they don't, if they remove the Queen as head of state, they'll be even more like the US than they want to be. You know?
Yeah.
And they don't, there's a lot of Canadians who really want to keep away from the US identity, because, you know, they go around the world and people go, oh, you're American, what state are you from? And it's like, I'm actually Canadian.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
But because of the accent,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, you know, it's hard to kind of like, you know, separate. So they kind of have to have this kind of like, oh yes, we've got the Queen on our money.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, the Queen's our head of state. Well, the monarch now, the king is the head of state.
The king, yeah. I think that I realized, obviously, because of you, I already knew that there was quite an anti-royal...
Oh, yes.
There was a lot of anti-royal feelings.
My dad
Britain.
wasn't the biggest fan.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
putting it mildly.
And we have another friend who lives in Britain who is He's
very anti-monarchy, yeah.
Very, yeah. To the point where he was saying some things that I don't think is appropriate when someone has just died. Like,
yeah,
you know.
it's very sad. I mean, you know, it's at the end of the day, it's someone who's lost a grandmother or a mother and all that, you know, and it's like human decency.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with some people who are like, oh, they're just, what are they for, you know? They don't do anything.
Well, there were other people
contributing to society.
Actually, there was this video that kind of went viral. It was a CNN. It was some anchor from CNN was in Britain and interviewing people that were just walking around the streets. I can't remember whether this was in London or I think it was in London. Just after the news broke, and this they asked this woman, "How do you feel?" And she said, "Oh, I don't." She said, "Obviously, you feel bad when anybody dies."
Very diplomatic.
She said, "Obviously, you feel bad when anybody dies because they have family and stuff, but I don't really care, you know." And the reporter was a little bit like, "Oh, I've interviewed the wrong person."
Yeah, no, there was a couple like that on CNN Live when they were going around Buckingham Palace, and they said, "Oh, sorry for your loss, and what do you think about the Queen?" And they were just like, "Nah. You know, go away." You know, and they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry."
Well, this girl was like, she was pretty diplomatic. She was not being ugly. She was like, means, "Oh," but he asked, and she said, and you know,
she goes, I'm not really the best person you want to ask about this.
Yeah, she said, "Oh,
just like, why,
I'm not really a fan," and
why aren't you a fan?
Yeah, and she said, "Well, there's colonialism, and
there's colonialism and imperialism, and then there's also."
I think she was a bit. She's been a bit shady recently with the whole Andrew thing.
Prince Andrew thing. Yeah.
Which, I mean, I think my jaw dropped a little bit because it's like, yeah. I mean,
wrong, but you know,
did she hurt her legacy by protecting him? I mean, at the end of the day, you can. I can anyway remove. You know, remove yourself from the situation and go, okay, well, he is her child.
He was apparently her favorite child, too, so...
You know, he's her child. So it's like, of course she wants to protect him. Is protecting him the right thing? No. You know?
No, not in that case, anyway.
Can you blame someone for wanting to protect their child? I don't think so. I mean... I think there's probably a lot of parents out there that would, you know, if their kid killed someone or something like that, they would probably still love them and be like, oh, this is my kid, you know.
Yeah, just to be clear, Andrew hasn't killed anyone.
No. No.
So, you know, yeah.
Don't sue us.
I mean, whatever, you know.
But it made me wonder, like, did she hurt her legacy by...
bailing him out.
Yeah.
Basically, is what she did.
Yeah. It was their family money that paid the woman off, wasn't it?
I'm presuming so.
I mean, yes. Be wrong in saying that, but
it was you know, yeah, they looked into it, and you know, she
well, because people were going, oh, that's taxpayer money.
Yeah, there's a lot of people who think the taxes are so high because they're going towards the funding them.
Yeah.
But people have kind of said, well, no, actually, the sovereign grant isn't that much.
Yeah.
You know? Because the sovereign grant is...
And Charles himself now King Charles is the one who scaled back, like, how many of the royal families are actually funded by the government.
Yeah. I forget what they used to call it now. They used to call it the civil list. It used to be called, and there's people on the civil list who received money from the government to live.
Yeah.
It's not like it's like high class dole money.
Because there's a lot of them, really, isn't there? It's a big family.
It's a big family, but he wanted to remove everyone but the immediate people who were in line to the throne.
Yeah, which you would think that the British public would appreciate.
And they did appreciate when he came out with that, because they were like, okay, but then of course all the people no, you can't do that. I think the Queen blocked it, but now he's king.
Yeah.
Who knows what he's going to do?
The Queen blocked it at the time?
I think the Queen blocked it at the time and said, nah, you're not going to do that.
Because it was, pissed the whole family off, I guess.
You're going to annoy the second cousin, whatever.
Yeah.
Who's 26th in line to the throne or whatever it is. It's just kind of like,
Yeah.
It's like, and I think he did do some reforms, but now he's king, he's going to probably even more so.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. They were also talking about how in the past he has made his opinions about different political things known openly. Yeah. And but he has vowed that being king, he'll be like his mom, and he won't give opinions on stuff that's happening. Yeah, publicly he won't. Yeah. And they were saying, okay, well, that's good, except for the fact that we already know your opinion on some of these things because you gave it as a prince. He'll have an opinion privately, I'm sure. Yeah. Which will get leaked at opportune moments. Yeah, I'm sure. But, he won't be going on Twitter to go, what the government has just done is wrong. Yeah. And, Yeah. Because I'm sure he was annoyed when Liz Truss said, King Charles III, because they didn't have time to announce it. Oh, yeah. His regnal name. Because there was some speculation as to whether he was going to be Charles. He was talking about maybe being George VII, keeping, because, Charles... Charles I had his head lopped off. I don't think that Charles II was this party-holic guy. Yeah. And I don't think that's something that most Americans are aware even happens, especially since Elizabeth kept her So do I have name. To see Charles I, Charles I, and Charles II to know what's going on in Charles III? To understand. to have to see Charles I and Charles II to understand Charles III. Yeah, that was good. Yeah, there was some really good, there was some good funny tweets. And, you can criticize and you can say what you want without being, completely just horrible and kind of inappropriate. Like, these people today, as the hearse was going down the street are screaming. Because today was there was a service at St. Giles church for her, and the royal family walked behind the thing on the procession. Well, the royal from family, Holyrood to St. Giles. The royal family meaning it was just the kids. It was just the kids, yeah. It was just Andrew, Charles, Anne and Edward, yeah. Yeah. The grandkids were not there. No. It was just them. But they walked. It was a long way. It was a mile. Through pretty much. Oh, it was only a mile? I think it felt longer watching it. Well, because they were going pretty slow, because everyone, Yeah. And there were a lot of people there, and there were some shouts from the crowd at Andrew. Oh, God save the king. Well, they were shouted, the Andrew ones I'm talking about. Well, the Andrew ones, yeah. There was a couple of shouts of Andrew, And, fair enough. He's there, fair enough. But I do at the same time think it's not the right time, yeah. Yeah, it's a bit inappropriate at the same time, It's like, when else are you going to get the opportunity to voice your opinion, though, at him, I suppose. I don't know. There's still kind of so much to say. I mean, there's how many more days of this before? Well, her funeral's on September 19th. Okay. So I think we should end here, and we'll talk about everything that's still left to talk about next week.
Yeah.
In the next podcast, because the funeral will be next Monday.
Next Monday, and,
Yeah. So you'll hear from us next Tuesday. Yeah. We'll talk about it again. We'll wrap it up because I know not all of you guys
are that interested.
Yeah. Not all of you care.
We'll talk about the Harry and Meghan. I know.
Oh my gosh, yes, all the controversies and the juicy bits.
Yeah, the juicy bits from Harry and Meghan and William and Kate.
Yeah.
Who they greeted mourners at Windsor Castle recently. They did a walkabout. Took flowers, and people were like, "Oh, they're united, they're back together, the brothers,"
Yeah, the Fab Four.
They call them, and it's like, oh, they need to get away from that. It's never going to happen. They've got separate lives now. One of them's recording a triple album. The other one's, forming his own band.
The other one's in a bag.
Eating chocolate cake in a bag.
Oh,
you got to get the references, man.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot more to talk about. So we will talk about it then. Let us know if you have any questions. We cannot promise that we know the answers.
We do know the answers.
We can look them up.
We know all the answers to all the questions.
We can try to find out.
We are the royal experts.
We're royal experts.
No, the royal experts are Podcast Royal, actually. We'll have to give them a shout out.
Oh, gosh.
Of course, they will be...
I will just go ahead and say... definitely tune in to them.
Yeah, they know way more about this stuff than we do.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But anyway, thank you all so much for tuning in. Be sure to check us out on social media. We are at TButty, TEABUTTY on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Send us your questions in. Send us in just any kind of thing you want us to talk about regarding this, because like I said,
tell us your memories of the Queen.
We'll finish. Yeah,
maybe you met her.
Yeah, maybe you met somebody.
I never met her.
We almost met Charles. Just by a couple of hours.
By a couple of hours, we missed him. He was out of there. He was gone.
Yeah, we could have. We could have. You all could have been listening to the podcast of someone who has met a king. You know. Anyway, tune in next week. Send us your questions and your topic suggestions if you want us to talk about any particular gossipy bits, especially about the grandkids. We'll try to talk a bit more about them next week. And we will talk to you then.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.